Hello and welcome to the Work for Change podcast. My name is John with a silent H.
And my name is Jean, spelled like Jean. And believe it or not, this actually is the fourth time we filmed this intro.
Yeah.
One of them was my fault.
Yep.
Okay, actually, most
they've all been your fault.
100%, they've all been my fault.
Been your fault.
Including messing up royally and forgetting to record.
Yeah.
So it's been a good time.
But okay, so before we get into this podcast, again, the first thing we want to say, major spoilers for Avengers Endgame. Again, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, turn the podcast off. If you've already seen it, enjoy. If you don't care, enjoy. We explain kind of everything, so hopefully you're not too left in the dark.
Yeah, so like we said, this is about Endgame, but it's not like a plot breakdown.
We're not reviewing
Endgame.
the movie or anything like that.
This is about a very specific part of Endgame that has led to a lot of controversy, especially within our fitness space. With weight loss, with health, with fitness, there's something that happens in this movie that has had a lot of people talking, and we want to give our 2 cents in it, but we also want to just kind of... We want to know more, like, where's this attitude coming from?
We want to get the conversation. We want more of the conversation to keep going.
Exactly.
You know, it's a very interesting conversation. But with that being said, it is definitely the most opinionated podcast that we have recorded.
Yeah. There's definite grounds where I can see someone being like, I used to like Jean and John.
Yeah. And now I don't, which is, that's fine if people feel that way. I hope not.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to listen to the whole podcast if you start feeling that way, because I think it ends on a good note.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely, it's another one where I start sweating a little bit because I get a little heated. And so we're just putting it out there because we want people to know, because we actually, again, we recorded an intro before this, but then after we were done, we're like, we need to kind of let people know what they're getting into.
We need to give a bigger warning that we get into it. Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoy this episode. Continue the conversation. Like we said, we want to start this conversation with this podcast. Continue it in the comments on YouTube or on our respective Instagram pages. Mine's at Jean Glaude.
At Obese the Beast.
And feel free to comment about it. Let's talk. Let's keep the conversation going. We want to know, like, what do you guys feel about this? Because we know what all the reviews and we know what all the articles are saying about it, but we kind of want to know, like, what do actual people think about it?
What do our people think
Our
about
people, yeah, that's
exactly.
better. That's a better way to word it. But we hope you guys enjoy this episode 28 of the Work for Change podcast. We're going to start this episode off by kind of reading and responding to an article that we read regarding Thor in Avengers Endgame. I was shocked. Okay, so we watched Thor. Here's the major spoiler. Thor gets fat.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's kind of explain before that, right? So in Infinity War, if you guys haven't seen this, right? Thor is the god of thunder, right? He is one of the strongest Avengers, if not the strongest before Captain Marvel now. But you know what I mean? He's a very, very strong Avenger. And he's always been known as that. And for a long time, he was kind of a very stoic character, almost kind of like not boring, but not as fun as like Iron Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
When they wrote his character, they wanted to portray Shakespearean, like it was supposed to be like Shakespearean drama, conspiracy. Okay. Like that was the idea of the Thor franchise. So that makes sense. So, but now, if you've watched any of the recent movies, starting with Thor Ragnarok, he's definitely more of a fun character, more comedian based, right? Which is actually really, I think it's really cool. It shows Chris Hemsworth, like his different, how he's able to act in different categories. It's more him. Like he's like making jokes he would make. Yeah. You know what I mean? But just as Thor.
Which is frustrating because he is one of the best looking guys on the planet.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things is like some people are just created and they just get extra boosts. And he is definitely one of those people. Yeah. Because he is unbelievably attractive and he is pretty freaking funny. But so in Thor Ragnarok, he's definitely a lot more of a funny character. The same thing in Infinity War, but Infinity War, his whole arc is that he's like kind of almost off, not doing his own thing, but he's with like some of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're trying to make a new weapon so he can hopefully defeat Thanos with this weapon. It ends up being called Stormbreaker. Towards the very end of the movie, he throws Stormbreaker, wham, right in Thanos' chest. Thanos is the bad guy in the movie. Thanos says, you should have aimed for the head, snap, and then Thanos destroys half of all life in the entire universe, right? So Thor, going into Endgame, the reason I'm explaining this, going into Endgame, he thinks it's his fault that all of this happened because he had that chance to end Thanos and he missed it. in his head. That's how he feels. So going into Endgame, he is struggling with like PTSD. He's struggling with just
depression.
Yeah, just feeling sorry for himself. And then so they start Endgame off with, their it's like right after all of the events of Infinity War. They end up going, again, spoilers, they end up going to Thanos, and Thor just cuts his head off. It's crazy. It's the very beginning of the movie. They kill Thanos. But you can tell that Thor is, and everyone's like, why would you do that, right? And then this was one of the...
I went for the head.
Yeah, I went for the head. And this is one of the craziest things. I remember when because we all watched the movie together, everyone in the theater gasped when this came up. It said, it went to black, faded to black, and then it came back, and text said 5 years later, and everyone was like, what?
Yeah.
Because I assumed it was all of the events were just going to happen right after another, right?
Yeah.
Like all of Endgame was going to take place right after Infinity War. So I just remember being like, what the heck, right? Mm-hmm. And then so they talk about Captain America a little bit, they talk about some of the other Avengers a little bit, but then they're like, we need to get Thor, right? He is in I think it was Iceland?
New Asgard,
which is, I think it's Iceland.
Yeah.
I forget exactly, right? But it's like a town that they have. It's only 1/4 of Asgard is left now because half of it was destroyed by Thanos before, and then the snap happened. So there's only 1/4, So Thor's been going through a lot of stuff, and so they go and find him. And he ends up being Fat Thor. So I kind of wanted, if you haven't seen the movies, if you don't have any care about it, before he was very ripped, like super jacked. Now he's kind of he's a fat guy. He makes a lot of jokes in this movie. They kind of keep that going, as far as his character is concerned.
Did you see the meme where it's like, girls, I want to see Avengers for the plot, and it's like plot in parentheses, and it's a picture of ripped Thor, and then it's like plot thickens. Avengers Endgame,
really
plot
good.
thickens.
I haven't seen that yet. Yeah. That's really fun. I honestly I think that's a gutsy move on their part to do that. Because like that, I'm wondering if Chris Hemsworth was almost like, sweet, like I don't have to work as hard, like I don't have to get super shredded for this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean he was just putting out an app at that time about working out, so unfortunately he had to remain.
Yeah, whatever.
Unfortunately, he had to remain in shape.
Yeah, that's terrible. Ugh. Okay, but so that was the movie, and then there was this. So when
at no point watching the movie did I think, ooh, people are gonna be mad about this.
I knew.
Literally, okay, for me, at no point.
I knew for a fact.
At no point. So afterwards, I'm like, I need to see a picture of Fat Thor again.
Yeah.
Like that was so good.
Oh, really?
And so I Google Fat Thor and article, fat shaming this, making fun of this, making fun of depression, making fun of PTSD, and I was like, oh.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I knew almost immediately that people were going to have an issue, not because I thought it was offensive, but just because people are offended by everything now, right? And so then I ended up, like, I have seen kind of some people talking about it, and I've honestly wanted to talk about it for a lot longer, but I figured I should wait a little bit before I brought it up, spoilers and stuff like that. So I ended up I talked about this in a video. If you're listening to the podcast the day that's come out, the video's out as well too. But I figured we could go in a little bit more in depth because we have a lot more time on the podcast to talk about it. So this is the article that I found. So Jean's going to be reading it because he's better at reading.
Yeah, so
I'm really bad at it.
There's an article written by a girl named Jean and Glaude. I think that's how it is. But it'll be linked. It'll be linked in the show notes, both on YouTube and on the podcast app. But the title is called "What Happened to Thor in Avengers Endgame." Okay, so we're going to read through it, and then we'll just kind of talk about it as we go.
Yeah, we're basically just going to be kind of reacting and sharing our thoughts about it.
There's a feeling every fat person knows. It happens the moment you're watching something and enjoying it, and then suddenly, it's like you've been slapped in the face. Your stomach sinks, and your heart twists, and your chest tightens. Your smile dies, and tears might even begin to form in your eyes. You've been hit with a fat joke. Fat jokes can come from the most unexpected places at the most unexpected times. It's not out of the ordinary to hear them in the mouths of otherwise kind characters within shows and movies that are lauded as progressive and inclusive. I'm looking at you, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. When a fat character is involved, it's almost guaranteed there will be fat jokes. Or, at the very least, the fat character will be the joke.
So when I read that first part, especially like when she was saying, because she says in the article at some point that she's an overweight person as well, right? So that's kind of her whole thing. And so the thing that I know that for me, when I was obese, I never once was watching a movie and they would make a fat joke and it would hurt my feelings. That's the thing. Like, that's the main thing I just don't understand. Because, like, if someone called me fat, then yeah, that's different, right? But if it's a fat joke in a movie or in a show, like, I don't know, it never really bothered me. So I just can't relate to that at all.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I first read that part, that's when I kind of realized it seemed like this person is trying to play some sort of victim card, and we see that later on in the article. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah. We'll just continue.
Yeah.
It's why, as a fat person, I carefully monitor the media I consume. If I know there's going to be a fat character, I have to consider whether it's worth watching a show or movie where I might find bodies like mine being mocked or shamed. When I do turn on media with a fat character, I hope for the best but expect the worst. I brace for it to hurt. I just don't want... Okay, so I don't want to come across from a perspective of... like non-sensitivity, like not being sensitive. Like, that's not the perspective I'm coming from. But
I don't think anyone's going to question that.
There's something in me that immediately is like tough. like not that like what she's going through isn't valid, but like to ignore things because like to literally ignore mainstream media because it's something you disagree with. I feel like is a problem that goes far beyond just fat shaming. Like when people are like, oh, I don't like the way that they make fun of redheads, I'm not going to watch it. Oh, I don't like like
it reminds me of that the super old video of the kid that like gets super
gingers have souls. Yeah. And then South Park.
Yeah.
But like again, it's I don't know, like ignoring something or like saying I'm just deciding not to watch it. I don't know. I don't think that's how you deal with this stuff. I feel like that's how you suppress this stuff, right? And then through suppression, eventually it explodes. But like, if there's in every area of your life, if there's something you disagree with, suppression is never the way to handle it.
Yeah.
Ignoring it is never the way to handle it. You have to like wrestle with it head on, which, I mean, she's writing an article, which is more than what most people do.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, when I hear that, I carefully monitor the media I consume. If I know there's going to be a fat person, I have to consider worth watching. It's like when you're at that point, I don't know.
Well, then it's like,
but again, I don't know because I don't come from that.
Yeah. So, but then it's like, it's almost, so instead of actually ever like watching, people who are overweight, which apparently that's what she identifies with. So now, are you just never going to watch anything that has someone that's overweight?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So it's now you're almost like shutting yourself off from even ever seeing, like you want to see yourself represented in media, but you're actively avoiding the media that you're represented in. It's kind of backwards to me.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Sometimes though, I don't get the chance to prepare myself. Sometimes the fat joke blindsides me and leaves me breathless in ways I could never have anticipated. Like when one of my favorite celebrities dons a dehumanizing fat suit, turning one of my favorite characters into a walking, talking fat joke. Yes, I'm talking about Fat Thor.
And at that point, like, I do understand, like, 100% you're blindsided. That's the point of the movie, is, like, that's a huge reveal, It's supposed to be a funny thing. Apparently this person, she felt like she was attacked, like, it was some sort of, like, some way of, like, attacking her. But honestly, like, from what I remember in the movie, yeah, obviously they say some things, or, like, they have, like, the shocked faces when they see him, but they're not overly mean. Like, I didn't think they were overly mean at all.
Yeah.
Like, there was no... I don't remember, and I mean, I could be wrong. I only saw it once. I want to see it again, but I've only seen it once so far.
Yeah.
That I don't remember there ever being a time where it was, like, really malicious and very mean jokes. Because, that's just not Marvel anyways, right? Like, that's not... It's a Disney movie.
Yeah, I mean, the only part where I can kind of see where the line might have been drawn was when Thor was like, I've got lightning going through my veins. And then... whatever his roadie goes like, I think you have cheese whiz or something like that. Where that's where it's like the most where it's like, okay, that was just a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Like that at most I get that one. But all the other ones were just like, I don't know. I didn't think it was malicious. And the only person who was like kind of like, dude, you got to get up and you got to go for it was Rocket. But that's the character he is. Like that's he has no emotion towards, or he doesn't show emotion towards weakness. He's always kind of like, deal with it. Let's go. Let's move.
Yeah.
Because he's had to deal with a lot. We assume. We don't know much about him.
Yeah.
Continue reading. Fat Thor in Avengers Endgame shocked everyone, and absolutely broke my heart. But he's just the latest glaring example that while things may be improving for fat representation on the whole, there's still a long way to go, especially when it comes to male characters. It's not an exaggeration to say that Avengers Endgame was probably the most anticipated movie of the year. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
It was certainly my most anticipated movie. I've been obsessed with the Marvel Cinematic Universe since around 2011 because while I enjoyed Iron Man and its sequel, it was the release of Thor in that year that actually got me hooked. There was something about seeing Chris Hemsworth playing a literal god, stomping around spouting vaguely Shakespearean lines and being mildly and affectionately objectified that really sucked me in. My love for the character only grew over the years, reaching new heights with Thor Ragnarok, as director Taika Waititi unleashed his chaotic energy into the MCU and crafted a movie that allowed Hemsworth comedic talents to shine, even while stripping Thor of his girlfriend, his father, his eye, his best friends, his hammer, and his homeland. Pause. She was okay.
I knew, yeah, this is exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, go for it.
She was okay with mildly and affectionately objectified that really sucked me in. So as long as he's super fit and attractive, you can objectify him. But the moment he's overweight, he's no longer allowed to be objectified. He has to be caressed. He has to be taken care of.
See, that's the victim mentality right there.
Yeah.
It's like just because someone's overweight, that doesn't mean that they that they need to be treated like any differently. Like the jokes that were made obviously were about his weight. Okay, fine, but they were still making jokes about him when he was the God of Thunder.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like what comes to my mind is strongest Avenger.
Yeah. Man, yeah, and he's not
strongest
right?
Avenger. Yeah, and then Hulk comes in.
Nobody got mad when Tony Stark was calling him Point Break because his hair.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there was no outrage because of that. It's like for some reason, like I get it. I come from a background of weight really ruining my life. Like I get that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's like if it's like weight related, for some reason it just affects people so much more. And I don't get it. I don't like, I guess, subscribe to that idea that weight jokes hold so much more like weight, I guess. Yeah. But like, I mean, but at the same time, like I do understand, like I definitely, like when I was being made fun of personally, when someone was saying something to me, yeah, that hurt my feelings. But again, like the whole point I'm trying to make is if it was in a movie, it didn't bother me at all. Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, if you call someone fat in real life, you're a jerk. Or if you make the jokes that they made in the movie to an actual person, you're a jerk. But this is a movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it should affect you to where, like, she's saying she was almost in tears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also, like, if I don't know, maybe it's different. Like, I'm in relatively good shape right now. Not by any means Chris Hemsworth, but relatively
shape.
Who
is?
Yeah. If I were to let myself go for a season and then come back to the gym, people are going to be like, dang, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, literally, it's going to...
And that's the thing.
And probably worse than what happened in the movie.
Exactly. Well, see, that's the point that I didn't make this in my video that I wish I would have said. The issue is, it's not like it was just somebody that came out of nowhere that was overweight and then they started making
fun of him, yeah.
It was the God of Thunder is now a little overweight, and it's not like he was gigantically huge. You know what I mean? He wasn't like morbidly.
He was straight up dad bod.
Yeah, he maybe gained 50 pounds, maybe 60 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's not like he got humongous, you know. And so that's why I think it's. I don't want to say it's okay because who knows who can say what's okay and not. But that's why for me it made more sense. It's not like they're just making fun of someone that you've never seen before and it's an overweight person, let's make fun of it. No, it's the God of Thunder has gained some weight. We're obviously going to kind of joke around about that.
Yeah, I just being mildly and affectionately objectified that really sucked me in.
It's like it's
irony.
It's like her putting that in the article is almost like a bait for people like us.
Yeah.
Because like, why would you?
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know. I don't understand why she would put that in there at all.
But it is a good point. Like it's the God of it's the shock factor.
Exactly.
It's the shock factor. It is the best looking person. And then even, I don't know, I didn't read any articles about when Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, when he meets Thor.
Yeah.
And they say, like, you're one bag of chips from being overweight. Like, no one said anything about, but, like, it's the shock factor And I think that hits people.
And so that's one of the arguments she has, I think, later in the article. So I hope I'm not trying to ruin it or whatever. But she talks about how like Hollywood's always had the same, she brings up like, oiled white man that has a ripped body and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was thinking, I was like, well, yeah, obviously it's from comics, which they're pulling from, which back in the day, that's kind of how they wrote them,
Yeah.
But even if you look at Star-Lord, if you look at
Chris
Pratt, I forgot his name. It's not like he's overweight or anything, but it's not like he has some Greek god body. He's a very normal looking guy.
Yeah.
And so I was just, when I saw it, I was like, and then you made the saying, like, Odin in the comic or in the movies he's kind of overweight, and no one has an issue with that. And it's like they didn't even make a big deal out of it.
Yeah. So let's go.
Yeah,
let's go to that because that's the next. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
I get so excited about this stuff.
Hemsworth, under Waititi's direction, plays Thor as a three-dimensional hero who can deliver one-liners but also, crucially, show emotional vulnerability. And by Odin, he is powerful. So this is where it's like they brought up Odin, and it was like, wait, Odin's like the most powerful force in the universe, and was overweight.
Yeah.
Again, there was no fat jokes about him, but no one like there was no.
It didn't matter.
There was nothing about him. By the end of the movie, Thor realized that the external things he relied on to define his worth, his father opinion, his hammer, aren't as important as he thought. And what really matters is what's within. His power comes from himself, and the moment he embraces this and soars through the sky in a streak of lightning set to the sound of Led Zeppelin's The Immigrant Song is one of the most glorious moments in MCU history. That was a pretty great moment.
Yeah.
When he's
absolutely
like on the bridge.
Yeah, and his eyes are like glowing and stuff. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But again, she's going to go through. Let me just finish this paragraph. Ultimately, Thor Ragnarok is a movie about a man learning to love himself, not in a cocky way as Thor does in the beginning of the series, but in a way that recognizes his true worth.
100%, I agree with her there. About like when he got into Thor Ragnarok, which I kind of already talked about, like it, like I was like whatever about Thor. I liked him. It's not like I didn't like him, but then once Thor Ragnarok came out, I was like, I want to be Thor.
Yeah, well, because in the very first like 10 minutes of Thor Ragnarok, like the things that make Thor or his hammer and his relation to
it's all ripped away from him.
It's all gone. Mm-hmm. Boom. Within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's like to the fact that he finds himself never changes. He never felt sorry for himself. If anything, he was just like, he never felt less about himself. Mm-hmm. Which goes back, because everyone's saying, well, just throw away Thor Ragnarok then, where he learned about the value of himself. It's like, he at no point did he go like, oh, I'm not in shape for this. He was constantly putting himself in situations, and everyone else was like, oh, maybe you're not ready. Like maybe but he never lost that internal dialogue. Mm-hmm. He never lost that internal value that he found and worth that he found through Thor Ragnarok. Continuing on. This theme powers Thor through the events of the last year's Infinity War. Despite losing half his people and his brother at the outset of the movie, Thor shelves his grief and moves forward with a determination born of his hard-earned self-belief. While there are very many funny moments in relation to Thor's character, including jokes about how beautiful his body is, again, that's okay. Thor is allowed quiet scenes of contemplation as well as huge action-packed sequences that showcase his power and heroism. But one crucial thing that happens in Infinity War that sets Thor on a darker path. As he confidently battles the supervillain Thanos, Thor sinks a blow into Thanos that should kill him, but it doesn't. Should have gone for the head. Mm-hmm. Thanos berates Thor right before snapping his finger and erasing half of all life in the universe. Thor gets a front row seat to the disaster, knowing he came this close to preventing it. On top of all the trauma he's already experienced in the lead up to Infinity War, it's one hit too many for him, and he breaks. Yes.
Well, so in Infinity War, they obviously they focus on Thor more, but I think like I don't want to ruin too much of it because she kind of talks about it, but like in Endgame, it's not Thor's movie, and so they can't spend a bunch of time like explaining why it's.
I would say Infinity War was Thor Ragnarok Part 2. Like Thor was
he was like the ace in the hole almost, you know, in Infinity War. It was like all this stuff was going on. You didn't know, because then they kind of cut away from what was happening with Thor and stuff. You had no idea really. And then he comes at the end and he's the one that's saving people. Yeah. You know, that's like kind of what it turns into. Obviously, they're not going to do that again in Endgame. Yeah, that would be like that would be really boring. Yeah, and be like, really so.
Avengers Endgame has a unique opportunity to explore Thor's PTSD and depression in a nuanced and meaningful way. What does it look like when an actual god fails? How does someone with power literally running through their veins grapple with the idea that they were still powerless in the face of destruction and death? According to Joe and Anthony Russo, the brothers who directed Avengers Endgame, the answer to such a question is alcoholism, binge eating, and a general lack of self-care, and subsequent weight gain. These things aren't inherently problematic. A fat, depressed, alcoholic Thor could have led to a really interesting and refreshing exploration of mental health and addiction, and the way those things intersect with masculinity and the expectations placed on men and heroes. It could have been a golden example of how a fat man could still be powerful and worthy and attractive and a superhero. I don't think at any point in the movie it said Thor was not powerful, that he was not worthy, he was not attractive, and he wasn't a superhero. Mm-hmm. If anything, like when he like gets all lightninged up and then his beard braids and then he's like, it's like, that's a powerful person.
So this right here is the biggest issue I have with the whole article, because it's like she didn't see the end of the movie, because, you know, at the end of the movie he ends up having Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. Like you said, the lightning comes down, he has like a bearded braid his
braided
beard. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not like he like got all that stuff and then all of a sudden he's jacked again. You know, he just stayed the same way.
And I was, during the movie, I was thinking at one point he was just going to be like,
me too.
And then everything, he was going to be normal Thor again and then go.
I love that they
kept that.
Yeah.
They kept the overweight. They
Honestly,
kept all that.
I think her argument would make a lot more sense if they did that.
Yeah.
If they were like, oh, bam, oh, now he's, you know, all the lightning hits him, now he's jacked again. I think her argument would make a lot more sense. But because they didn't do that, I think that it was great, because it showed that he was capable the whole time. It was what was going on in his mind. I don't think it was what was happening physically with his body. It was in his mind, all of the things that have happened. He didn't feel like he was worthy mentally, not physically.
Yeah.
And then once he realized he was, then he was able to fight again. And he was able,
because then he has that conversation with his mom when he goes back to the events of Thor 2. And she's just telling him, like, it's what's inside, right? It's what is inside that matters. And then he wields his hammer and it comes and he says, I'm still worthy.
Exactly.
Like, he's still worthy. There's nothing less worthy about him being overweight, being fat Thor, you know? And so it really is like she didn't watch the end of the movie.
Exactly.
It was like she like created the dialogue.
She created the narrative in her head.
She created the narrative and then didn't allow it to change.
Exactly.
Like even throughout the events of the movie, where it's like Thor had a lot in Infinity War. He had a lot in Endgame. There were a lot of scenes and screen time dedicated to his transformation. It's not like they just like, oh, he's fat now, shoved him off.
Yeah.
He had a lot dealing with this transformation, and it was like she couldn't allow that. Mm-hmm. She couldn't allow that change. Continuing on. Instead, it becomes the comic relief of the movie. While other characters are given space to grieve and make inspirational speeches and try to move on with their lives, Thor wallows. You're right, for 5 years, correct. His trauma is never treated with treated with sincerity or respect. He becomes fat and lazy, dirty and gross. For that, he is punished.
So right there, I was like, where did they say he was dirty and gross? Like, she just made that up in her head. That when I read that too, I was just like, this is like this narrative you're making up. It doesn't. I never saw that in the movie ever.
Yeah, because he was a gamer.
Yeah, he was a gamer that was like chilling in his house and stuff. He was drinking a lot too,
which shows her whatever the word I'm thinking of, discrimination against gamers who want to sit in their house and play games all day. Like, they feel probably offended by your article. Okay, the camera lingers. The camera lingers on his bloated torso because it was unexpected. In a cruel subversion of the loving gaze normally aimed at a shirtless and ripped Thor.
So it's a loving gaze when it's shirtless and ripped.
Exactly.
But it's like a bloated subversion when it's not. Okay.
Other characters mock his appearance, comparing him to melted ice cream and suggesting cheese whiz flows through his veins. Yeah. That was the line where I was like, okay, I can kind of see that one. But everyone, even one of the few sincere moments Thor gets in the movie, when he encounters his dead mother and she gets to have a conversation with him about who he is and who he wants to be, is undercut when she nastily tells him, eat a salad.
That part made me laugh. Yeah. I can't.
Moms, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
That's moms. They're going to do that.
That's how they are.
Yeah. Should we be mad at the moms in the movie too? Meanwhile, the rest of the characters don't really challenge the idea that Thor is less worthy because he is fat. When he tries to wear the new Infinity Gauntlet and reverse the damage done by Thanos' snap, the other characters panic and push him away, as if his mere proximity could do damage. No. And while Thor does get his hammer, how do you say it? Mjolnir back and manages to land a couple hits against Thanos in the final battle, it's Captain America who receives the shining moment of glory with Thor's hammer in hand.
Okay, a couple things before you go. With the Infinity Gauntlet, I don't think that the reason they were saying no, you shouldn't be handling the Infinity Gauntlet is because you're fat. It's because he was mentally not stable yet, and so he was still struggling with things. And the Infinity Gauntlet is the strongest thing in the universe.
Yeah.
So obviously they're not going to want someone that's not mentally stable at the time to handle it. So even Hulk, almost killed Hulk, who is the strongest before Captain Marvel and stuff. You can argue it forever, but he was very much stable. He's Professor Hulk, he's the best of both, Bruce Banner and Hulk. All of these things, even that almost killed him. So of course they're not going to trust someone that's mentally not stable, not that someone that's overweight. When I saw that, it didn't even register. It's because he's overweight. I just don't understand. It's the person that wrote this article, again, I don't have any ill will towards this person. I'm just passionate about this stuff, But it's this person, like you said, they had an agenda, and all they're trying to do is every scene is trying to push that agenda forward, which I just don't get. I don't get why you'd let that little thing ruin this whole movie. Because honestly, this movie I loved it so much. So, okay, sorry.
And it's also I just don't like the fact that she goes, while Thor does get his hammer and manages to land a couple shots against Thanos in the final battle, it's
that was the arc. Yeah, that was the arc. It's now you're just even though, everything I'm saying isn't true, but and you're just trying to brush it off. And and of course,
he wields the hammer and Stormbreaker
at the same time.
Yeah.
While he's overweight.
And gets some really good shots against him.
Some really good shots. And, of course, they're not going to make it to where he's the hero, because he was the hero in the last one.
Exactly.
He tried to be, what I mean? He was the strongest person in the last one. So, of course, they're going to switch it to being Captain America, Steve Rogers picking up Mjolnir. That was one of the best parts of the whole movie.
Yeah.
When he finally picked up the hammer, that goes all the way back from, I think it's the Age of Ultron, when he kind of moves the hammer and Thor's what the heck? Yeah. That was such a good part of the movie, and to just be shoving it off is
Yeah, but they made Thor fat, so I don't care.
Yeah. It's you're just letting this thing ruin the whole movie for you. And if the movie, so like we said, so Infinity War was definitely more, as everyone knows, it's more Thanos' movie. But then Thor is a huge part of that. But Endgame is Iron Man and Captain America. Mainly their movie. So they had two very important parts in the end battle. Thor had played a role, but again, there's 30 a bunch of people had a big part of it. You know what I mean? Scarlet Witch had a huge part in the movie. All of the women, when they had all the women come together and fight people, that was a cool moment, know? They had so many other great moments. So it almost seems like someone that liked Thor being ripped and they're mad that he's not ripped. That's you could read this article like that.
Yeah.
If you took out the fact that she says that she's an overweight woman, you know what I mean? You could read this as some person that's just I like Thor being jacked and I'm mad that he's not jacked anymore. That's the way it reads almost.
So continuing to finish
I'm
this,
sweating.
While it's a cool moment proving the long-held fan theory that Steve is worthy, it's also another way of the story to systematically sideline fat Thor. No.
Yeah. You're wrong.
No. You're missing the point. The point is that Steve, went through years running from the government, subverting the government, subverting his friends, fighting with his friends in Civil War, literally questioning everything that he was for, standing for the government, standing for that. And he spent years on the run. And then through that, standing up for what he believes in for his friends. Now he is worthy to hold Mjolnir. Like, you've missed all that. Yeah. All that is involved there because you're mad that Thor's fat.
Exactly. Yeah. And the whole one of the whole arcs of Captain America is he's super pure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In most of the movies, he doesn't say one cuss word. Like, he's like that guy, right? So everyone's like, if anybody is worthy, it's him.
Yeah.
And like seeing Mjolnir shoot across the screen, you're like, that wasn't Thor that did that. Like the energy that was in the theater at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine?
We watched it relatively early.
Right. Like 2 days after it came out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the energy, literally people started cheering in the theater. So could you imagine sitting next to someone that's just like, ugh. Like, come on.
Why wasn't that Thor?
Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry. I started laughing because I'm thinking if people that listen to the podcast have no care about Avengers are just like, cool. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
We told you.
Yeah.
Okay, so indeed, even when Thor is fighting against Thanos, he barely makes an impact. Her view is tainted.
Yeah.
From
definitely.
Which is a stark contrast to the way Thor was able to overpower him in Infinity War. Cumulatively, the message is clear. Thor is not what he was, and just as his muscular physique once communicated his power, his fatness is now the embodiment of his weakness.
No.
Yeah.
We've argued that enough.
I could give the filmmakers the benefit of the doubt and believe they intended for Thor's journey to be meaningful, although the constant stream of fat jokes certainly belies that. Whatever the intention, though, the effect was this. I sat in a theater and felt my excitement turn to heartache as Thor swung his fat-suited body clumsily across the screen, and everyone around me laughed. I had to endure that laughter every single time.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, they weren't making the joke. They weren't making this movie to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, exactly. And there was no one in the theater thinking of her.
And the thing is,
like no one in the theater thought of her.
Yeah, and because they're not in a bad way either. Like, they're just not, like, I wasn't sitting in the theater looking like, oh, there's people that are overweight are probably kind of upset about. No, like it's not like I don't have any empathy towards people that are like, I get it. I was there, but it's like to let that ruin. It's like she said she's been a fan since Thor came out for almost 10 years now. You're gonna let that ruin 10 years of fandom.
Yeah,
it's like you are looking for something to be upset about.
Yeah. The laughter was never with Thor, but always at his expense. Even when he wasn't doing anything particularly funny, the audience giggled because isn't it hilarious that Thor has a gut?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It
is hilarious that Thor has.
It would be like this if Hulk got really skinny.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing. People like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
Like, it would be funny. And it was funny when Hulk came on the screen. He's Professor Hulk. Now it's Hulk that's smart. People laughed.
And then when he was like taking the pictures with the
exactly. It was funny. Like, because it's so different than what it was before. It's not because he's fat. It's because he is the exact opposite of what he used to be.
Exactly.
Period. And that's not just physically. Mentally too, he was completely different, right? Before he was overly confident. He was cocky. He thought he could do anything. He would always try and go off by himself and defeat the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it would be a bad idea every time, but he was so confident in his abilities that he would do it anyways. In this movie, it is the complete opposite. Even though he has the backing of everyone that he's with, he's afraid to fight. Like, that's the whole thing, is that he was the complete opposite of what he used to be. Because he's fat.
Or think about like Drax, right? Like, he's always willing to go out and it's his stupidity that is funny.
So if they showed him and he was some super smart intellectual, same thing as Hulk, right? It'd be funny.
Yeah, exactly. But also it's like if Thor was introduced fat, I wonder if it wouldn't be like there's no expectations to subvert. Like,
exactly.
The joke is in the fact that
he's different than what he was before. Not that he's fat.
Yeah.
Period.
There have even been fat superheroes, thanks to Netflix reboot of the 80s cartoon She-Ra and the Princess of Power. The show casts aside the one-size-fits-all generic bodies of the original and reimagines characters in a diverse range of body types. With more than one plus-size character, their weight and size is never commented upon, and they're all just as powerful as one another. It shouldn't feel so revelatory, but it does. It's kind of like the same thing. I don't know. I don't want to...
Well, that's the thing. That person, that superhero, was introduced as someone that's overweight. So it wasn't like some crazy thing. It was, that's what they were. And exactly. So that's not the issue.
Yeah. And again, the way to like help people overcome an issue is never to stay silent about it. To assume it's not there. That's not the way to do it. Mm-hmm. You should recognize that there's a difference and allow that to still like not affect the storyline in any way. You know what I mean? Like the fact, yes, they are overweight. Yes, they are a woman. Yes, they are whatever. And look how they contributed. Like not ignoring the issue, but recognizing it and seeing the benefit that comes from it. Like, like there's just different ways you deal with adversity and difference, right? A lot of people like to say, no, there is no difference. When it's like, yeah, there is. Yeah. I promise you. Or there's, hey, look at all the differences and look at how much stronger we are because of them. There's difference. There's a different way to look at it. Okay, continuing on. What's significant about all these positive representations is that every single one of them focuses on fat and predominantly white women. As a fat woman yearning to see myself reflected on screen, until now I have largely embraced this fact. I reason that fat men have been long more visible in pop culture and even portrayed as desirable. Considering the incredibly long list of fat men depicted in mostly loving relationships with mostly thin women across decades of pop culture. The Simpsons, Family Guy, and The King of Queens, to name a few. I want to say that Homer is not the example of who you should be as a human being. Like, he's not. He's dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He makes mistakes all the time. But I don't feel offended on behalf of all men. Peter Griffin is not the example that I think of for man. Yeah. You know? And so she's saying, like, the long list of fat men in loving relationships, like, they are made fun of all the time.
Yeah.
At their stupidity and how they see things wrong and how they do things wrong. Like, I think that example falls short. It doesn't match.
It does fall short, but I can't sit there and say that it's definitely not true, because there's definitely, if you look at, you know, sitcoms and movies, there's definitely been more fat guys that are with fit women than the other way around. I don't think I can really even think of one. And you know, that's a good argument to be had right there. That would have been such a better article. If that was the bulk of the article, it would be a lot harder for me to argue the points or to try and see it a different way, because that's 100% true. Now, again, does that mean that we should change everything and have, you know, a ton of sitcoms that have, you know, an overweight woman with a fit guy? I don't know. Like, that's not. But that argument right there makes a lot more sense than trying to say that Fat Thor ruined the whole movie.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. I think that to say that, wow, look at the positive way that men are portrayed. With, you know,
100%.
No, that's not.
Peter is not portrayed in a positive light.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, while fat male characters might have been more visible, it doesn't mean the representation has always been positive. Thank you.
Yeah.
Most of the time, fatness in male characters is associated with laziness and buffoonery. In all of the examples listed above, comedy is derived from the sloppy, foolish husband being nagged by his thin, uptight wife. Their body types are visual shorthand for their internal lives, reinforcing damaging stereotypes that suggest being fat is a character flaw. These stereotypes crop up again and again whenever fat men are portrayed on screen. For examples like Schmidt in New Girl and Terry in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Their former fatness is symbolic of their prior failings. By shedding the weight, they become better, stronger versions of themselves. Their fat bodies portrayed with fat suits are treated as both a punchline and a horror they've escaped from. Okay, let's get controversial.
Okay.
For the most part, not everyone, I will have to use that disclaimer. You're overweight because you're not working out, you're eating too much, and you haven't set up disciplines in your life.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but consistently through a long period of time, you have not cared about your diet, you have not cared about working out, you have not set up disciplines in your life. That is how you become overweight.
And it's not even just
not for everyone.
It's not even just overweight though. It's like morbidly obese, right?
Morbidly obese. Yes.
So for me, like, just kind of bringing it back to, because I'm like, this is like she's explaining my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, when I was morbidly obese, I had no discipline in anything. And I've talked about it before, right? It's weird, but when I started playing drums, that was the first time I ever did anything that I was proud of ever in my life, ever. And so like even like so for when I was growing up, I know I'm going back really far, but when I was growing up, you remember I loved football. I played football, flag football. I got MVP a couple years, and that was as a center and a D lineman. That doesn't happen, right? I loved it. I was a team player. It was my life. I wanted to be a football player when I grew up. I got into high school, got made fun of, didn't join the football team, right? That was messed up for them to make fun of me. But if I would have been stronger, and if I would have been, in a better mindset and felt like I could achieve, I should have pushed through that. But I didn't. And again, I'm not mad about that because everything that's happened to me has gotten to me to where I am now. Yeah. But up until playing drums, which I started playing drums when I was in 10th grade in high school, I had never achieved anything because, look, whenever there would be any adversity, I'm done. It's too much for me. So once I started playing drums, I realized, wow, I can actually accomplish something. And then, once I actually lost the weight, which was a couple years after high school, it showed me that, like, if you are disciplined and if you put in the work, you can make changes, right? Work for change. Like, it's just the truth. So yeah, like when they show people that used to be overweight and now aren't, it's not just, people focus on the weight loss, which I get it, right? The before and after pictures. I am guilty of this, right? You see, that's the most visual thing. But the issue is that people don't see what's happening in the mind. Because when you lose that amount of weight and you keep it off for a long time, you have completely changed how you are on the inside. And not in like, I mean, you might be the same person, like humor-wise and all that stuff, but the way you see yourself has completely shifted. So yeah, like the thoughts that you had when you were obese are different than they are now. That's how it is for me. I see myself, I'm almost, if you want to say, I'm more confident in myself. I had no confidence when I was obese at all. Yeah. Not because I was obese, but because I didn't accomplish anything. I never put my mind to something and actually did it until I started playing drums. And I could ask people from back in the day before I started playing drums to after, I started changing then. Because I started something and I found value in it. And I was like, wow, I put in the work here and I've gotten better at this craft. I've gotten better at playing drums. And then it went into me losing weight and now it's gone into everything. I mean, I've kind of talked about it before, right? But like that mindset of like, you can do it if you put in the work has stuck with me since I started playing drums and after I lost the weight and all that stuff. So like, yeah, like, when they do like the flashbacks of, like the Brooklyn Nine-Nines or whatever, like, oh, I used to be fat. Like, it's just obviously, I mean, I don't know. I've never seen those. I've seen the shows, but I don't remember those episodes or anything like that. But like, yeah, it's just an easy way to show like, yeah, they have a fat suit on. They were a little bit different. Now they have gained confidence, but again, I'm not going to sit there and try and argue that point and saying like those shows are whatever, good or bad or whatever. But I know for me, that's why I know that I feel like I am a more, like, to society, I'm a more useful person now. And I'm not saying that anyone that's overweight isn't. I'm not saying that. But I know for me personally, I am much more used to society now than what I was before. But because I wasn't putting in any work to do anything before. That's just me though. Again, just me. Yeah.
So I just want to say, like, what I was getting at there, which you so vehemently expressed, it's a keystone habit that you develop. That when you have one habit, when you become disciplined in one area, it helps you become disciplined in other areas. That is the whole idea of the keystone habit. Like, it doesn't need to be fitness.
No, absolutely not.
If you were an undisciplined person and you decide, I want to be disciplined with my finances. Okay, you are now disciplined with your finances.
I want to start reading.
Whatever. You now realize, okay, it is not financially beneficial for me to go get fast food every single day. So I'm going to start buying more food, like at the grocery store, so that I can do it. Oh wow, you just happen to be not buying as many French fries. You're buying different food. Now, like, one habit helps you develop other habits. By getting better at one keystone habit, it affects pretty much every other habit in your life. That's the benefit of just developing one. So when they go back and they say, like, the body types are visual shorthand for an internal life, yes, That's what happens when you are undisciplined, when you are not paying attention when you're eating, when you're not working out, and then one of those things changes, you do notice physical change in your life. Just like you do notice that you are a happier, healthier, more positive person through working out. One thing affects other things. They are not isolated.
Yeah, and like I want to make it very clear that like when we're talking about this, we're not saying that you have to be a fit person to be valuable. You know, I'm assuming the people that are listening to this podcast, the subscribers, you guys, have some want to change your life in a good way, right? In a positive way. So I'm assuming most people that are listening agree with what we're saying. You know, so I don't want someone that's like maybe listening and that is on their weight loss journey. You are doing what we're talking about. Exactly. Right? Yeah. You know what I mean? We're not saying like just because you're not fit yet, you're not worthy.
No, keep it up. Like, keep going, because it's those habits that you are doing now that are going to bring you where you want to be. Your habits are vehicles and they take you where you want to go. Like if you're in a terrible vehicle that's taking you to the bad part of town, guess what? You're going to end up in the bad part of town. But if you use that vehicle to get where you want to go, it's going to get you there. Like your habits are vehicles. They take you to the places that you want to be. So don't, that's all I'm saying there is like, be careful what your habits are, because if you are content with where you are and you're not wanting to change anything and you keep on finding yourself on a downward slope towards unhealthiness and unhappiness, don't get mad when someone says, hey, you look like you're on your path to unhealthiness and unhappiness. Yeah. Like you can change that.
Well, and the thing is,
that's the whole thing we stand for, is the fact that you can change that.
Exactly. And like, that's the issue with this. I think the girl that's writing this is that she 100% doesn't want to change. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that in a sense of, you know, like it doesn't make you less worthy of being treated nicely, but like if you're going to start critiquing this movie, that's where the issue comes in. It's like you don't want to change, and obviously this movie is about somebody that used to be very fit that is now overweight. So like they're obviously eventually, I'm assuming in the next movie he's going to be fit again, you know, at some point, right? Like that doesn't, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but that you kind of understand what I'm saying.
All right, so conversely, in Avengers Endgame, Thor... We're almost done. Conversely, in Avengers Endgame, Thor has left the better, stronger version of himself behind.
I disagree. I 100% think he's stronger now.
Yeah. His fat body is a physical manifestation of his mental state. That is a mess. And yet again, what was gonna happen if he was depressed and drinking beer and playing video games for 5 years? Yeah, like, what else would have happened?
Exactly.
Okay. So his fat body is a physical manifestation of his mental state. Yes. That's how that works. Exactly what happens. It's hard to imagine a character like Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow getting mercilessly being slapped in a fat suit and mercilessly mocked about her size by those who are supposed to be her friends. Then again, Avengers Endgame did fridge her character, so the movie is not exactly a beacon of feminism. Okay.
Disagree. They did not fridge her. She literally gave her life for the Soul Stone. Like, and then I think they're going to have a show with her in it anyways.
Yeah. Like, exactly. So, whatever.
Sorry.
Jeez. And then, okay. Anyway.
What were you going to say?
Just the fact that, like, saying that it's not a beacon of feminism, this movie, like, the whole like Scarlet Witch thing, like
Scarlet Witch,
she crushed
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
Scarlet Witch almost killed Thanos by herself.
Yeah,
the strongest character in this whole movie is Captain Marvel.
It's debatable, but there is the argument can be made that she is the strongest.
Who would you say?
Well, there's a lot of people who say that Thor is the strongest thing in. I mean, not Thor. Hulk is the strongest being in the universe.
Yeah, but. I don't know, like Captain Marvel.
But okay, it is worth debating.
Okay, let's say in the movie though, she shows the most strength. Yeah. She's completely running, literally just going through ships. Yeah, completely wrecking them. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
exactly.
But okay, yeah.
But yeah, so no, to say this is not a beacon of feminism, like what? Okay, still, it's astonishing that such a plotline about Thor made it to the big screen in 2019. Okay, last paragraph. Marvel has traded on the sex appeal of its star, and Thor in particular, for over a decade.
Yes.
They've reinforced time and time again what a hero looks like. Tall, muscular, waxed, oiled, white, male. They've expanded that somewhat in recent years through the likes of Black Panther and Captain Marvel. Although the physical appearance of superheroes, even in those movies, largely conforms to the same narrow constraints of what beauty is.
It's never enough.
I know.
It's never enough. Like she even says...
What do you think someone who with like super strength and super speed and super like what like look they should look like Matt Frazier.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I say that jokingly, but like someone who is stronger, faster, jumps higher, runs. You know what I mean? Like that's what they look like.
Yeah, like if you look at the Olympics, like, there's no 300-pound sprinters. Like it's not in a mean way. Yeah. Like, but even like what I mean, we're kind of getting into the weeds here, and I'm really not trying to upset anyone, but it's like she even says, right? Oh, they have to be. They are always saying that they're white, male. You know, oiled, whatever. Muscular, but then she even says, but you know, there's Black Panther and Captain Marvel. But even then, they're not. They're still too close to it. It's like, what do you want? Someone that has like one leg and like is 800 pounds is the strongest. Like I don't understand what is enough for this person.
Yeah, exactly. With the fat Thor, Marvel had the chance to push those boundaries further. Instead, they diminished his hero status. It was through the fatter he got, the less he was worth. It's not. He's still worthy. He literally says that. Which leaves fat people sitting in the audience, feeling like me and no doubt countless others, including little kids, feeling pretty worthless too. Fat men and women deserve the chance to be heroes. They deserve the chance to be people. They deserve the chance to be more than a fat joke. End of the article.
Okay. You said something before we started recording about Thor. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what that was?
Thor. Well, I don't remember Thor is everyone's hero. He is the hero in all of us. Mm-hmm. He is the fact that
the Thor in this movie.
The Thor in this movie is the hero in all of us. You may not be the fittest. You may not be the slimmest or whatever. But the fact that you're still worthy. You are still worthy to wield the hammer. You are still worthy to make an impact. You are still worthy to make an impact for your friends, for the people you love. He, in the end, even throughout the entire thing, he went through a hard time, which we all go through. Mm-hmm. He went through depression, which, you know, a lot of people really deal with. PTSD, not feeling like he had the shot and he missed it. And that through the help of his friends, through them seeking him out, through this crisis coming, that he was able to see that I am still worthy despite what I look like, despite what I've gone through, and that he's still able to wield the hammer and is still able to make an impact. Like, he is the hero in all of us. Mm-hmm. And she completely misses that. And what I'm afraid of, and it's not, you know, whatever. She wrote an article, but she's just one of many who wrote this article.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was looking on Google because I wanted to see a picture of him.
Yeah.
And it was article after article after article after article about how Marvel really screwed up this time and fat shaming and wow, good for Marvel. And it's like, you guys, you missed it. We're so like focused on being inclusive that no one's feelings ever get hurt, that we realize that it is through recognizing that through trial, through things you're going through, this is what creates character. This is what creates saying that even though I'm going through adversity, I can still stand tall. And it may not be who I once was or who I want to be, but I still have value as who I am now. And like they completely miss that. And it's like such a bummer because I was literally shocked. Like at no point did I think, wow, they are shaming people. Which I know you said that you saw it was coming.
I didn't think that they were shaming people, but I just knew how people are. You know, how people get upset with that stuff. So I wasn't, it's not like in my head I was like, oh, there are definitely going to be articles about this. But in my head I was like, yeah, I could see people being like, kind of having an issue with it. Just because I didn't even think it would be like this, but more just being shocked. You know what I mean? Like that was more the thought that I had. Not like writing a whole article saying how the whole movie's terrible because of it.
Yeah, I was complete. I remember just being. I think I had the same feeling that she had in theater, reading the articles, where I was just completely like slapped in the face with like, "Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Like, is this where we're at now? Like, this is what's happening?" I don't know. If you guys are listening on YouTube, leave a comment about what you guys thought.
I want to hear people's thoughts.
I want to hear like what people think about this.
Comment on our pictures on Instagram or something like.
Yeah,
like just say like, hey, this is about the podcast. Like, I'm really curious because like it's hard because obviously everyone lives in their own bubble, right? Like we live in our own bubble. We can't say that we don't because everybody does. So then obviously that bubble kind of it influences how you see the world. And so I'm curious to see what other people think. I truly believe that she's in the minority, but I could be completely wrong.
But yeah, so like this can probably be our most insensitive podcast.
100%. I think people. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to be mean,
but that's what if you look at our track record, like with both of us, our YouTube channels, everything we do is to help the everyday person. For me, it's the everyday person who loves CrossFit fall more in love with it, right? Like just the person who's not they're not Thor, they enjoy doing it, and this guy enjoys doing it too, and hopefully I learned some stuff while watching it. So I'm just trying to help someone get more fit. You are literally obese to beast, like helping people get from where they are to where they want to be, helping them find practical ways to find their tools. It's like our track record shows we want
to help.
We're not out to
I'm not
make
here to
fun.
Well, that's the thing. We're not here to shame. And the thing is that this woman, right? The stuff we make isn't for her. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like if you're seeking out my help, you obviously want to change.
You're on the path.
Exactly. Yeah. And so no matter, I've always said this, right? No matter how much information you give someone, how much help you try and give someone, how much you try and do for someone, if they're not ready to change, nothing will happen. And that's exactly what we see. I mean, and then you end up making up complete narratives in your head and writing an article about it.
Yeah.
And then people react to it.
Yeah. And then we spent a whole podcast talking about it.
Yeah, literally the whole podcast.
Well, that was what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we had a couple other things, but we're kind of already...
we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed this, kind of review, if you will, or rebuttal, Again, I feel like I think this is just a deeper issue. We're so afraid of hurting people's feelings.
Yeah.
That, like, we can't even, like, call things as it is, but...
Not afraid. It's just aware. We're just trying to get...
Not us. Culture.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't care if I hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but if I do by something I believe in, it's like, oh, okay, well, sucks. Mm-hmm. As a culture, I just feel like we're approaching it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like, accept everyone except for the people who don't accept me for... No, I don't know. We can get deeper into this at a completely different time. But until that time, we hope you guys enjoy this episode. Again, like, talk to us. Let us know what you think. Comment.
I really want to hear what you guys think.
Because we had a much stronger opinion on this than we've had on a lot of things.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting us to talk about this for so long. So
all right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Peace.